Shri Rajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopaakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Om. I praise sage Patanjali who gave us the science of yoga to purify our mind and consciousness, and who gave us grammar and vocabulary to use the words and express ourselves with perfection and precision. He gave us the gift of medicine, that is the Ayurveda, so that we may remove the impurities of the body. I bow down with reverence to Maharishi Patanjali, who gave us all these gifts. Namaskarams to all of you on this wonderful International Yoga Day celebrations. The principles and techniques of yoga was and is a universal one. It does not belong to any particular religion as such, though it was found out in India, just like the law of gravitation is universal, though it was found outside of India. And therefore, yoga does not invite any prejudice against itself. Anyone applying the principles of yoga will find it working for his benefit. Now, fortunately, it has become a globally accepted phenomenon, and everyone in general is enjoying the benefits of yoga. And that is a benefit or benediction of yoga on humanity. The real yoga is grappling with the mind, by the mind, and going beyond the mind. As of now, globally, most of the people connected to and interested in yoga are enjoying the benefits of yoga's Nimnanga or Adhamanga, that is the lower portion dealing with the body for good health. The Uttaranga or the higher portion of the yoga philosophy, which is in its fullness dealing with the mind and going beyond the mind and culminating in moksha or liberation, is the real yoga in its essence. Yoga has everything to deal with mind. Man is what his mind is, and to win over himself, naturally, a man has to win over his mind. And there comes the benefit and the benediction of yoga. Today's subject for consideration is the second sutra of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and with that, the yoga proper begins. The sutra or the formula is Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodaha. Yogaha, the perfect state of concentration or samadhi, is Chitta Vritti. Modifications of the mind or thoughts of mind, Nirodaha, totally stopped or annihilated. So, yoga is cessation of thoughts. When thoughts cease, what happens? The next sutra says, Tatha drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. The seer or the onlooker or ourselves, we as we are in our own state when yoga happens. When chitta vrittis or thoughts cease, when all the thoughts stop totally or arrested totally, we are as we are. When thoughts arise, what happens? The next sutra says, Vritti Sarupyam Itara Atra. The seer or onlooker or we ourselves take the shape of or get identified with or appear as the thoughts appear in our mind. The question will naturally arise, What is the problem with the thoughts? Why should they cease? And what is the difficulty when we are identified with the thoughts? What, after all, is the benefit of being in the state of being we as we are? As you put these questions to yourselves, and if you see the answer in the Yoga Sutras, and if you ever had the minimum stillness of meditation when thoughts have quietened down, you will understand the enormity of this subject and will be amazed at the adventurous nature of the rishis who dared to explore this vast ocean inside the man called mind or manas. It's just something marvelous, and seeing this mind only, the modern generations have found out computer and other electronic gadgets. Now we will answer the above questions and enter into the subject proper. Swami Vivekananda explains in this way: on a full moon day, if there are no waves on the sea or ripples on the water surface of a pond, the unbroken image of the moon can be clearly seen. When the waves or ripples arise, the moon will be visible not as it is, but as is broken by the waves or ripples. Full moon is a joy to watch, while the battered, broken, scattered moon is no fun at all even to look at it. Now compare ourselves or the seer inside us or the onlooker as mentioned before as the full moon and the mind as the water surface of the pond or the surface of the sea. When thoughts have ceased, we are and will be as we are. And when thoughts arise, like the ripples or waves on the water surface of the pond or sea, we get scattered, battered, broken, and fragmented and appear as per the nature and color of the thoughts arising in the mind. Like a moon, when waves appear, appears to be broken and takes the shape of the wave, we also appear to have taken the shape of our thoughts and emotions accompanying it. For example, when a man gets angry, he says, I am angry. He was Mr. So and so, but when thoughts arose and emotions accompanied it, he says, I am angry. So Mr. So and so becomes Mr. Angry. Like the full moon is a joy to behold, the ancient seers have realized that our real nature is really full of joy, Satchitananda, when there are no thoughts or when the mind is absolutely quiet. But when the mind is full of thoughts, like the broken moon on the wavy water, we too get broken or fragmented and get painted by the type of thoughts that arise in the mind. Accordingly, not only the world, we also picturize and image ourselves as per the thoughts and all the complexes develop in our mind. We will take up another example. Stand in front of the mirror. Just stand in front of the mirror. If the mirror surface is clean and without undulations, you will be able to see yourself as you are. If the mirror has undulations, then your face will appear to be swollen and each part will be not as it is but as it appears in the mirror. In India, in some places, there are different types of mirror kept just for fun. In some of the mirrors, your image will be thin and long, and in some short and wide, and in some the middle part of your body will be wide and other portions of the body will look normal. It's a great fun to watch us for others. But when we look at ourselves, we will be satisfied and contented only when we come to the normal mirror which reflects our image as we actually are. Like the mirror, our mind also is reflecting ourselves, and when the mind is calm and quiet, we can see ourselves as we are, that is full of joy, knowledge, and peace. One more, but more closer and simpler example would be take a pond or a swimming pool. When the water is clean and clear, without any ripples or waves, you can see the bottom of the swimming pool or the bed of the pond with pebbles, etc. But when there are ripples and waves and the surface is disturbed, you can't see the bottom or the bed of the pond or of the swimming pool. The whole thing is disturbed on the surface and the bottom appears to be totally disturbed and doesn't give a clear vision to our eyes. Similarly, when there are no thought waves or any emotional ripples and the mind is calm, we can see and feel ourselves as we are, joyful and peaceful. Like we will be able to see the bottom of the pond or of the swimming pool clearly, still, clean and clear when there are no movements on the surface of the water. In that state, we are with ourselves, and that is a point of oneness with ourselves, oneness with oneself, or perfect concentration. And at other times, we get attached and identified with the thoughts and emotions connected with the thoughts, and we oscillate and we get disturbed. Is it true in the day to day world? Just the common sense will prove it. If even a simple quiet mind is not a welcome thing, why do people doze off whenever something is soothing to watch or hear or while traveling? While traveling, why do we find most of us dozing off? Children, youngsters, and grown ups, healthy and unhealthy persons, everyone doze off many times while traveling. One can argue that it is due to fatigue or tiredness, etc. That may be true to some extent. But even in the early morning train and bus, just after getting up from a very good sleep, we see many people dozing off while going to their offices. Even in the crowded trains and bus, people fall asleep enjoying the rhythmic rattling sound of the train speeding on the rail lines. And how mesmerizing is that nap while traveling? It is an indirect indication and a hint from the human nature that our nature wants quietness, stillness, and in that state of quietness or stillness, to a great extent, we being free from the chatters of the mind, free from the cluttering thoughts, feel the homely quietness and the joy of our own nature and soul. Of course, in deep sleep, which is becoming a problem all over the globe, and people fall head down to get deep sleep by drugs, alcohol, and by any possible means, indicates that a mind which is full of thoughts, which is too crowded, is not really a thoughtful mind. And a mind with less thoughts or no thought is not at all a thoughtless mind. It also indicates that people, in spite of their trying to keep themselves engaged with various entertainments, would ultimately likely to return to their abode, the sleep where they get the stillness in which they merge with themselves. Otherwise, why people all over the world would like to have a wonderful bedroom with lovely beds and lovely music to put them off to sleep? If sleep, which is almost like a shadow of samadhi, with almost no thoughts being there, if it is a dreamless state, why people are madly fond of that sleep? It is because in sleep we are almost near to ourselves with all thoughts having settled down very quietly. We are as we are, almost in the state of a perfect yogic concentration, but it is with darkness, unaccompanied by alertness or awareness, and without knowledge, and without we being conscious in that state. But even in those attempts, if thoughts in the form of worries and fears haunt the mind, or sometimes terrifying dreams come, it is difficult to enjoy the quietness, and the resultant effect is stress, tension, and all the psychosomatic difficulties which are troubling us. While the stillness or quietness of sleep is unaccompanied with awareness or is like a shadow, the same or more quietness or more stillness arising in the waking state where there are no thoughts is million times more superior and energetic, and that is called yoga or concentration or samadhi, and a state of supreme felicity. While most of the attempts to enjoy the peace of mind, as is universally coveted, they are all temporary, dependent, and in the end leads to desperation. This supreme technique of yoga is a voluntary, conscious effort and not depending on anything external except on our own wish and the inner ability to attain to that state of quietness at our will and wish, called samadhi, which is our real and normal nature. And this is the surest, safest, and scientific response to the ending of all sorrow and ennui. That is yoga perfect, which means a natural, spontaneous, and habitual state of concentration without any hazard or hardship or tremendous efforts. Everyone is capable of attaining to that state of yoga, which is bliss unalloyed, as explained in this philosophy of yoga by Patanjali Maharishi. It is a thrilling and adventurous and one of the most daring exploration into the inner recesses of human personality, especially a profound plunge into the unfathomable depths of human mind, which is more vaster and deeper than the ocean and this universe. In fact, in one of the scriptures, it is mentioned that when the mind yawns, the world dawns. That is, the whole universe itself is contained inside the human mind or our mind, which is daily experienced by each one of us. That is, when we go to sleep, when the mind becomes quiet and indrawn, the whole universe vanishes. And when we get up early morning from the sleep, that is when the mind wakes up, the whole universe arises again like the sun rising on the east. So, this is quite a mighty challenge even for daredevils and strong willed persons. In fact, even a great yogi with whom Krishna came and accompanied him and taught the famous Bhagavad Gita, such a valorous warrior like Arjuna claims Vayuriva Sudushkaram. It is very difficult to control the mind, more harder and more hazardous than controlling the wind. We can control the wind also, but very difficult to control this mind. Yet, that was the unbridled spirit of the Indian rishis and yogis, and they came out victoriously. And the benefit was for the whole humanity in the form of Yoga Sutras. Patanjali Yoga aphorisms or Patanjali Yoga Sutras are such a benediction on the humanity. The approach is rational and scientific, and no beliefs and acceptances are required here. One can experiment with it, apply it, and when one gets the results, one can get the knowledge, and he can acknowledge, and he can accept, or he can reject it. Yoga is universal. If it is not universal, yoga is useless. Swami Vivekananda says samadhi, or the state of perfect concentration, which is called yoga, cannot be and should not be the birthright of a few chosen individuals. In that case, it is not universal and therefore it would be useless. If I can go into samadhi, every man, nay, even a dog on the street, should be able to go into samadhi. That is the test of the truth, and yoga has stood the test of the truth, stood the fiery test of the intellectuals, the scientific investigation all along these years, and it has come as a new benediction and blessing for the humanity. Yoga assures that possibility for all. Coming to today's subject, yoga means samadhi, which means perfectly concentrated state of a man or a mind, voluntarily and consciously and at all times. It is not a mechanical process or something caused by external reasons or causes or objects like drugs, etc. And that is called the yogic state because the mind gets focused or concentrated even when there is greed or hatred or there is a sorrow or misery or vengeance or there is fear or sensual stimulation in the mind. It gets into a state of focusing or frozen process of concentration happens there, but that is involuntary and is being enforced by external factors such as greed, hatred, fear, etc. And the moment the external causes or the purpose is removed or the purpose is accomplished or the object of hatred or greed is removed, the mind again fluctuates and becomes restless, and that person cannot concentrate or focus his mind on other process, other projects, or any other works. And unless these conditions are there, he cannot focus his mind on any objects or any of the ventures. But yogic concentration is not like that. Yogic concentration is an unqualified and unconditional achievement of a human being. A yogi will be able to concentrate on anything and everything at any time and every time. That is how those of you who have read the life of Swami Vivekananda will know that in London, when Swami Vivekananda was challenged to play golf, though he had never played it, he won the game due to yogic power of concentration. When questioned how he could do that, he told, "This is the secret of Hindu concentration." Hindu concentration means yogic concentration, which is a universal principle which can be practiced by anyone. When properly learnt and practiced along with other moral disciplines and ethical qualities, it can take anyone into that state of great power. That state of existence, when you are perfectly self controlled, it is the root of all ethics, morality, and all laws, and also all success in the worldly as well as spiritual pursuits. This is the very basis of education for the mankind. Swami Vivekananda says, education is not the amount of information thrust into the brain running riot there. It is a training by which the current and the expression of will are brought under control and become fruitful, which is called education. This practice of yoga essentially is that training by which the current and expression of will are brought under control and made to bear fruits in the form of final liberation. Yoga, therefore, is cessation of thoughts. It is our desires and wishes which arise in the form of thought waves. The desire is nothing but the will, and every thought with emotion accompanying it is the current and expression of the will. Yoga brings the current and the expression of the will under control and stops all thoughts. Now let us understand a little about the thoughts or vrittis which are called the modifications of the mind. For yoga means the total cessation of these modifications of the mind. Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodaha. Every desire which is an expression in the form of a thought is an indication of insufficiency inside us, to fulfill which the desire arises, the thought or vritti is in the mind. This ruffles the surface of the mind and you can't see yourself. You run behind the thoughts to satisfy the insufficiency through objects or through any other pursuits. But according to yoga, you are totally full. The one who attempts to make himself full or desires something considers himself insufficient and therefore tries to become sufficient, and that cannot happen because any action arising from an insufficient source cannot be a total action and cannot bring total solution. And that is why we find that our desires are not getting fulfilled, because the very origination of desires are arising from the preconception that it is not full. That which is not full and sufficient cannot bring sufficiency. Insufficiency, the bedrock or the base from where the desire arises, cannot give us sufficiency. Desires therefore go on endlessly, and we are caught up in the ceaseless results of desires in the form of joy and sorrow. If we are Purna, total or full, we need not do anything, which means there is no thought because there is no desire. Now that somehow we feel some insufficiency inside us, we rush to satisfy or fulfill that insufficiency, which expresses itself in the form of desires. These desires and our attempt to fulfill or satisfy them and the resultant effects in the form of disappointment, sorrow, dejection, happiness, joy of getting the desires fulfilled, etc., arise as our experience. Life is such a ceaseless chain of experiences. Every experience is a thought and is captured within a thought. Like a camera capturing the events or the scenes in the movies, thought captures all the experiences of our life. The funny and the mischievous part of these experiences are really strange, puzzling, harassing, and haunting. These experiences, when over in the external world, they do not pass away or vanish. The events and the incidents might have vanished in the external world, but after that they go and get settled down in the lower chamber of our mind as accumulated memories, or what is called in yoga as samskaras. There they remain like a seed of an experience, generating various internal climatic changes like depression, sorrow, moods, boredom, ennui, psychosomatic fears, etc. They create a sort of tendency of likes and dislikes towards different aspects of our life, like men, food, work, religions, climate, and so many other things. These are all called vasanas, emotional coloring uh, given to all the thoughts which are stored up in the form of experiences. These accumulated impressions of experiences or samskaras then become a secondary personality of ours, while the primary personality is our real self, which is at the bottom of the mind, like the bed of the pond or the ground of the swimming pool without any disturbances. Actually, it is these accumulated memories, our secondary personality, which is active in our day to day life with all its pride and prejudices, attraction and aversion, causing different experiences to us and coloring every experience that is happening to us based on our memory. These are called complexes, which each one of us have, and they pose a great hindrance in again meeting different situations which we face. Every time a situation presents itself in front of us, what happens is the situation sends a message through our senses, through the brain centers to the mind, and the usual normal man's mind responds from the accumulated memory or samskaras, which is the past. This is a great nuisance because it colors our view and also the situation, and many times we misinterpret the situation and respond erroneously, causing great grief to ourselves and others. To have a correct and right understanding of a situation we are facing, we should have a clear and clean mind, which means calm and unruffled mind, which means thought should not interfere between us and the situation we are facing. If thoughts arising out of accumulated memories, which is nothing but the past, interferes in every new experiences, we will misinterpret every incident, every event, every human being, and the situations, and our actions become a contaminated action. Because these past memories in the form of thoughts trespassed into the field of perception, because of which we could not come in direct contact with the reality, but we met the real situation as interpreted by these thoughts only. Things change in life, people change in life. A man who misbehaved with me after a few years would have repented and would want to deal with me in a very friendly and loving way. But if I carry on with the past impressions, thinking that that man was an enemy, it would be impossible for that man to establish a good relationship with me in spite of his having a good resolution, because my past is coming and interfering between him and me. And that is how all the calamities of life take place. We will take one more example. In a place called Khetri in Rajasthan, there were many neem trees. Everyone from the childhood sees those neem trees, and therefore there is nothing unusual about it. But one Mr. Naresh, who has been knowing these neem trees from the childhood and had no experience of these trees affecting him in a negative way during his 35 years of life, one day had a very strange experience, and that was one of his friend committed suicide by hanging from the branch of a neem tree. Mr. Naresh was working in Hindustan copper mines, and he used to have night shifts. Even after the suicide of his friend hanging from the neem tree, he used to come home and go to the office through the same way with the neem trees on both sides of the road, and he was not worried or affected by it. But on a particular day, when he was returning home at night 1 o'clock, as usual, he was coming through the same road with the same neem trees on both sides. In the beginning, nothing unusual happened, but half an hour later, most unexpectedly, without even he being aware of it, suddenly like a meteor dropping from the sky, or a water bubble coming from the bottom of the well and bursting on the surface of the well water, the incident of his friend committing suicide by hanging from the neem tree branch shot up from his memory from the unconscious and burst on the surface of the conscious mind. The result was very stunning and most unexpected. The whole event, bursting unexpectedly on the surface of the mind of Mr. Naresh, resulted in various thoughts about that friend and his hanging from the branch of the neem tree, and the rumor that his friend who committed suicide has become a ghost. That created such an explosion of panic and fear that Mr. Naresh, who was a well built, strong man, collapsed and sank on his knees on the road and became frozen with fear. After half an hour, somehow he gathered his strength and himself and quickly walked back to his house and lay himself on the bed shivering, affected by that incident, which was really not in the external world but caused by his own thoughts from the memory which he had stored in the unconscious part of his mind. Mr. Naresh has passed through that road before and after the suicide many times. Many others were also traversing through that road and nothing had happened. Really, nothing happened in the external world, but just the thought that his friend committed suicide and he has become a ghost, coming out as Chitta Vritti or the modification of the mind at that unexpected time, at that unexpected moment, turned the whole world upside down for Naresh and he was deeply affected. Now, the experience in the external world vanished, but the imprint of it got lodged in the unconscious cellar of his mind as memory. So every time now he sees a neem tree which had nothing unusual about it, now constantly reminds him of a man hanging from the neem tree, and neem tree became a suicide tree for Mr. Naresh, the poor innocent neem tree. Similarly, the world as it is innocent, it is said, but it appears to us as our thoughts present it to us. There comes a necessity and the importance of the yoga and the ability to be developed to control and censor the thoughts so that the life stream can flow smoothly and sweetly. We will take up another example. When a scientist wants to know the secret of anything, first he reasons out from the treasure of his accumulated knowledge called memory or samskaras. If he finds an answer from that unconscious accumulation, then it becomes a known thing of the past and it doesn't solve the scientific problem. And when the scientist finds that it is not the answer, he just rejects it and keeps on probing further. At a particular junction of time, when his mind, not being able to find an answer, becomes tired and quiet, then, like a flash from somewhere unknown even to the scientist, the answer comes just streaming inside his mind, which is called revelation in religion and invention in science. Swami Vivekananda says this answer comes from the other end of the mind called superconscious mind. While the previous memory, which came in the case of Mr. Naresh, was one from the unconscious. In the Naresh case, old thoughts intervened, whereas for the scientist, the old thoughts cease and they don't come and interfere, and therefore the unknown answer comes out in the form of a new scientific invention. Vrittis or thoughts arising in the mind are constantly swaying us, and that is why we become tired and fatigued or affected mentally unreasonably. Once a lady was severely scolded by the boss in the office in front of all, and she felt insulted and deeply hurt. The incident was over in the evening at 5 o'clock in the office, and the lady returned home. But the incident, though it was over in the external world, left its deep impression in the mind. And at 10 p.m., though the lady was alone in her room, in her house, again she had the traumatic experience of the insult by the boss in the office in her house. But this time there was no office, there was no boss, and no others of the office. And it is 10 p.m. and she is alone in her home. So, see the funny and the tragic part of these thoughts. First, the boss insulted her really, but now she herself is torturing herself through her own thoughts. This is the mischief of thoughts which they are playing day and night in our life and ruining the peace and joy of our day to day existence. You can easily understand this event. In this instance, if that lady had become aware, had practiced yoga, and understood that these are not real but thoughts, and if she was able to perceive the truth, then the thought would have collapsed and she would have become free. But the lack of knowledge or ignorance about yoga made her suffer in life. For this purpose, we should have self observation and observe our mind and the thoughts arising in it, and through the yogic practice be able to censor the thoughts or keep ourselves unaffected or caught in the net of thoughts. All the experiences of our life are not destroyed but captured like the photos and stored in the memory in the lower part of the mind called the unconscious mind. Yoga says we have many births and experiences of every birth is accumulated in the unconscious or the underground cellar of our mind. We are not able to perceive it now because of lack of training. But if by proper practice of yoga and by proper practice of observation, if we can watch our mind, we can not only be able to see the memory stored up in our unconscious mind, but we can even go beyond and see what happened in our past life also. Once, while lecturing on yoga, when Swami Vivekananda was asked, "Do you remember your past?" Vivekananda answered, "Yes, I do remember my past, but I will not reveal it to you." This is a tremendous yogic feat and an amazing power given to a man if he can use it with great prudence, and if judiciously he can use it for others' benefit also. Swami Vivekananda could not only read his past life, he could even read the mind of others, and even he could understand what they were in their past life. Once, when Madame Emma Calvé, the famous opera singer, was about to commit suicide and she approached Swami Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda could enter into the depths of her mind, change all the thought currents and the impressions, and put new thought currents like replacing a new book in place of the old book, and that made Madame Emma Cave vivacious, joyful, and energetic again. So every moment as the senses come in contact with the external world, the senses pass this information which goes to the brain center through the mind into the unconscious and throws up hundreds of thoughts as responses which cloud our vision in seeing the world at present. Most of us see the world from the past. Most of our fears are generated by the past memories. We don't know future, so how can we be afraid of future? Yet most of us are afraid of future because the mind is constantly cluttered with the past events and past happenings, and therefore the past getting projected into the future creates an imaginary and unreal fear of future. Most of us see the world from the past and we are constantly interpreting and not directly interacting with the current present external world. The result is chaos, which is our life. The question will now arise, which is, can we make ourselves free from the network of thoughts? Can we get freedom from the network of thoughts? Yoga says it is possible, and every one of us have the strength and the capability already inside us. But like in every other field, we have to learn the technique and apply it with understanding. Before that, one must really have the thirst or the hunger to learn yoga and reach the goal of yoga. The first thing that is to be done is to first hear about this philosophy of yoga, think and brood over it, and with proper understanding start practicing it. Like learning to drive a car, slowly we can start learning to drive the mind also to our benefit. But it is no child's play. It is for the manly and valorous people who take up a thing and see to its end, and not for surface swimmers or those nibbling a thing here and there for mere satisfaction and gratification. There are varieties of thoughts, but thoughts, after all, are thoughts. Every thought has a long range, starting from its seed state in the unconscious or subliminal impression state in the unconscious cellar of the mind to the thoughts which we can see and feel at the surface level of our conscious mind, which provokes us into action. To understand this, one has to first sit quietly and start focusing the whole faculty of attention on the mind itself. Mind is hundreds of multitudinal thought currents. Though there are two words, mind and thoughts, they are both one and the same and not different. Like it is the water which becomes a sea and the waves. There are three words, water, sea and the waves. But essentially it is the water which becomes a sea and which also turns and appears as waves. So try to watch the thoughts as they go on in a procession inside yourselves somewhere and as you sit in meditation. The practice in yoga is as you watch hundreds of thoughts, each one will sway you, evoking the emotional response from your unconscious. And again, you may get caught in the same confusing stream, and every effort will result in another thought. That is why yogi practices need initiation into the yogic teachings by a guru or a master who knows the art of yoga. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, and in most of the religions, there are guides, teachers who initiate a student into the practice of yoga. So they give a mantra or an object for meditation and for the mind to hold on to it. This will be like the traffic police constantly watching the innumerable moving vehicles like thoughts moving in the mind. But standing on his tower, he is not swayed by the moving traffic. Similarly, when you get tied or get hold on a mantra or an object or a deity, you get yourself stationed properly to a thought and you will have a post to hold on or a station to stand like the traffic police whom nothing affects. Even then, due to the past habit, the surging thought waves will not allow you to get focused on that single thought and it will try to distract and disturb you. But nothing like practice. As you go on doing practice, or as you go on practicing this meditative process, slowly the wavering mind starts rallying around this point of concentration. Like in the beginning, when you were learning cycle, you were losing balance and would be falling down now and then. But you soon managed to regain your balance, sit on the bicycle, and you started riding your bicycle on a road full of traffic, which did distract you, but you intelligently, through practice perfected, surfed through the surging traffic on the roads. Similarly, as you start practicing or doing this exercise of meditation, which is the attempt to begin the meditation, soon you will find that mind will become slowly and steadily quiet and steady. Whenever it becomes disturbed or it wanders away, you make an effort to bring it back to the focal point. This attempt or effort to bring the mind to that central point from where it gets steadied to one object, deity or mantra, it is called abhyasa or practice. That is constant effort to remain in that state of one pointedness with the object of meditation. Now the question will naturally arise that though I have chosen to focus the attention on one point, why do my mind waver and run behind other objects? Yoga says it is because of the attachment. Long association creates this attachment. For example, a man, if he had lived in a cold region or North Pole, when he comes to a desert place, the unconscious promptings for him would be to seek a cold place because long association has created attachment. As Krishna says in Gita, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. Attachment comes from association. Slowly, with discrimination, if he is able to cut through, the craving for the cold atmosphere, which has brought air condition, will slowly vanish. Yoga says because of attachment, the mind wavers and runs behind other thoughts. It is called raga and dvesha, that is attachment and aversion. Both are the same. One connects you to the object due to attachment, and other connects you to the object due to aversion. There is a beautiful example in the life of Krishna. It is said that gopis of Vrindavan, who were constantly thinking of Lord Krishna because they were his devotees, were one pointedly focused on him. But Kamsa, who was Krishna's enemy, was also constantly thinking of Krishna and was focusing on Krishna because he wanted to kill him. Gopi's one pointedness was due to devotion, due to love, and Kamsa's attachment was due to hatred. Both attachment and aversion are the same force which creates connection with the object which or to which we get attached or to which we are averse of. But if you look at a thing like a witness without aversion and attachment arising in the mind, you don't get connected. Objects get disconnected. So, how to disconnect? One should have dispassion, vairagya, through discrimination, viveka. That is, understand what is needed to achieve the goal and what is hindering our achieving the goal. Then give up or get disconnected to the unwanted and hindering blocks, which is called dispassion or vairagya. This will result in gathering all the force of energy that were spent wasted in controlling the unwanted thoughts, which used to arise because of our attachment due to the past habit and impressions. Now, having given up that attachment, the collected force of energy will help us in focusing our attention on the object of meditation more forcefully. Like the unwatered grass of a lawn dries up. When we don't attend a thought, the unwanted thoughts slowly lose their nourishment in the form of our attention and wither away and fade away. And that energy which is saved will help us in focusing more force on concentrating our mind. Slowly, as other thoughts become feeble and start fading away or start disappearing, the single thought will become predominant and the total energy will get absolutely one pointed. This, when practiced for a long time and becomes our nature, this one pointedness will persist in waking, dream, and deep sleep also. It becomes essential part of our personality. This state of mind is called ekagrata avastha. The attention is so one pointed and at all times that wherever and whenever a yogi throws his mind, he becomes a master in that field. Such a mastery makes him do every work with great dexterity. So it is said that yoga karmasu kaushalam. Dexterity in work is yoga. In a normal, ordinary man's case, his mind gets focused on that work which he likes it. But for yogi, such an impediment is not there. Any work, anytime, every work, every time, he can focus his mind because the whole mind is under his control, thoughts being brought under his control and censored. And yoga is such a great power. As you start practicing yoga, you will find that when a thought arises, our immediate response is we either flow with the thought, enjoying it, and wake up after a long time finding that some unwanted thought has taken us for a trip, but that we wanted to focus on a mantra or an object or a deity. Or when the thought arises and if it is not favorable to us, we start rejecting it again and again, and this creates a reverse connection, and we are again caught in that thought. To disconnect with the unwanted thoughts or thoughts with which we are attached or to which we are averse of, we have to watch the thoughts and also see that thoughts play mischief by using the emotions in our unconscious and gets, it, gets us into its trap. We get entangled in it either positively or negatively, which is said to be due to raga and dvesha, attraction and aversion. As we watch this drama going on inside us, it will give us an insight, and with that insight, we will keep ourselves aloof as a thought arises in the mind. Being aloof and not attending the thought falls by itself like a dry leaf, or like a child doing mischief, finding that nobody is attending him, drops his mischief and becomes quiet. Mind also becomes quiet. Even the effort to control the thought also makes us entangled, and it again arises as another thought in the form of the thought to control the mind. This understanding releases us. So then, it becomes a congenial atmosphere and an easy place to focus on one single thought. Like in the ocean, it is one wave that provokes another wave, and so on. The endless chain of waves go on. In our mind, also, one thought provokes another, and endless series of thoughts go on. When by practice and dispassion and detachment, all thoughts are quieted and one thought alone remains, it cannot continue for a long time because there are no other thoughts to push and pull it, and slowly the single thought collapses, just like a single wave not having a wave before and after it to push it or pull it, it collapses. Single thought collapses, leading to a total state of no thought called Niroda or controlled state. That is a time when the doors for liberation opens up. This is called Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodaha. All the thoughts have ceased by the right observation, understanding, and right handling of the thoughts arising in the mind. In the last century, it was Swami Vivekananda who took this sublime yoga philosophy to the West and made it a public property for the whole humanity, throwing the precious gems and diamonds of India to the benefit of human population. Not only did he preach and write the famous book Raja Yoga, but also while teaching these Yoga Sutras, he used to go into Samadhi again and again. And in London, people were stunned and captivated to see Swami Vivekananda sitting like a marble statue, still and calm, and his eyes slightly bulging out and fixed on the tip of the nose. They had heard of Buddha and seen his pictures, but in Vivekananda they could tangibly see the truth of yoga fully manifested and enacted, seeing a great yogi giving them the confidence and ensuring their faith steadied on this great yoga philosophy. In fact, Swami Vivekananda, as per the ancient traditions of India's Vedanta and Yoga, wanted this art of concentration to be a part of education right from the childhood. He says, how has all the knowledge of the world come? But by the power of concentration. He says, I will not teach subjects to a student, but teach him the art of concentration. And having mastered this concentration, a student can gather facts at his will. That is a path of yoga. When the concentration is perfected, the thoughts are under control, and that is the state of yoga when all the modifications of the mind are stopped voluntarily, consciously, at our wish, at any time, as per the need of the yogi. Depending on our intensity, the achievement becomes near or far. Patanjali Maharishi says, Tivra Samveganam Asanaha. For the person who is very urgent, to whom yoga is urgent and who is intense, the goal is immediately achievable. More intense you are, more near the goal is, and immediate is the achievement. And more lukewarm or just a surface swimmer you are, the more the distance between you and yoga. May Patanjali Maharishi and Swami Vivekananda bless us all to get the power and the energy to become a yogi. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Om